Man, what's happening, everybody? Hey, look here, man. Before I get started, the first thing I want to do is I want to thank everybody that reached out to me last Friday. I had no earthly idea that this was going to catch fire the way it did, and I appreciate everybody. But last week I spoke about a special guest, man, that was unique, and I got him on the show today, man, and I'm gonna let him get to explain his group. We're gonna talk about the apprenticeship program that he joined in 1975, his trade, 71. Oh, you gonna let him get them 4 years.
No, sir. No, sir.
71. But look at, man, we got a good show planned for y'all, man. Actually, this is my first special guest. So without further ado, man, let me introduce to y'all the one and only Mr. Glenn Branch.
Well, thank you, Carlos. I appreciate that, man. And it's a pleasure to have met you some 10 years ago. And it's a pleasure to be on the podcast.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure to have you. Mr. Glenn, let me ask you a couple questions, though, before we go any further, my guy. The apprenticeship program, I spoke on that last week.
Yeah.
That apprenticeship program over at Newport News is something I never seen before. They have sport teams, football, baseball, basketball. They have gyms. Do they got a stadium for football yet?
Yeah, they
Got a stadium.
They've had a stadium for a while.
And not only that, man, you can go there and get a high dollar trade while playing these sports. And I'm just gonna get you to touch on a little of that. First of all, Mr. Glenn, let me get you to run down your background for my teenagers that's listening and to the other people that's listening. Just run down who you are and your background.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Carlos. First of all, let me just say again, it's a pleasure and welcome everybody for watching the podcast. Carlos, I actually finished high school in 1971. All right, I went to George Washington Carver High School in Newport News, best high school in the world. And there was a young lady that had a friend there, and we would go to school midday because we were both teachers' aides in the morning. So there were some days that she caught the bus, and some days I saw a friend would take her. This guy had a convertible, and he looked pretty cool. So when we got to school one day, I said, young lady, who's that guy? And she explained to me that it was her boyfriend. I said, well, what does he do? She said he goes to Newport Shipbuilding Apprentice School. I had no idea that the shipyard had an apprentice program. So I looked into it, and come to find out it was a earn as you learn. You get a skill or trade. And I said, well, I think that's what I want to do. My mom being a single mother raising three young men, I said, I need to stick around home as opposed to maybe go off to college and see where that leads. So that's what I did. I applied for the apprentice school. When I did that, Carlos, had no idea of what the different departments were. Of course, they had a catalog, and that catalog gave all kinds of descriptions. But being high school, in some cases, had no idea what they were really referring to. So I applied for maybe the ship fitter, and I can't even remember the other department. To make this long story short, I was selected to go into the mold law department. And it was a unique experience. I really learned how to interpret blueprints that came directly from engineering in the design section of the shipyard, and basically produced molds, patterns, parts that we were sent to the fabrication department to have the actual steel cut so that they could pre-assemble, assemble, and start construction of the various vessels.
What year you say this was?
I started in 1971.
So that was pre-computers. Everything had to be done by hand. And pretty much now.
Yeah, everything was done by hand, Carlos. And actually, and I'm pretty sure there's some older guys out there that are familiar with the mold loft. It's basically a long loft floor. And we actually had the lines of the lines. I needed the frame sections, the different cuts of the vessels. Like I think there was a Los Angeles class submarine we had on the floor, maybe one of the frigates that we were constructing at the yard at those times. So we would actually have to put wood battens down on the floor, scribe the shape of the frame, and make the mold for the different parts, full size, and send those to the fabrication shop and have the steel cut.
I'm gonna speak on that. What you were just saying about apprenticeship school, and this was in '75.
I finished in '75.
So you started, like I said, in '71.
Yes.
So that's why I was telling these kids, especially the high school kids, like apprenticeship school ain't going nowhere. This was almost 13, 14 years before I was born. I ain't get here in '83.
Okay.
And this is what I was trying to tell the kids back that I've been mentoring. Is like, if you get you a skill and trade, it'll take you forever. But another thing I want to touch on is the email you sent me.
Mm-hmm.
And the part that really, really caught my eye was the Carver Group. If you don't mind, because it's so unique, I want to touch on your group and what's your vision for your group. And then we're going to go from there about this unique group that you got called the Carver Group. So let's talk about that for a second, and then we're going to jump right back to skill and trade. But I really want to get the message out about the Carver Group. So if you don't mind, run down your company and the Carver Group for me.
I'd be happy to, Carlos. The Carver Group is a vision capital company. And I know you guys out there will say vision capital. I've heard venture capital, but not vision capital. And what my company is all about, if we invest our resources, time, effort, and whatever it takes in visions. If you have a vision and your vision is unselfish, if your vision has the potential to benefit the many versus the few, all right, we are all about that. And, some of the things that we do would be to foster awareness and understanding about what your vision might entail, the specific business area that you talk about going into, or whatever it is that you're going into. What we want to do is to understand the nature of it, what impacts it, what are the upsides, what are the downsides, who else is in that business or that particular vision area that you are looking to get into, and offer suggestions. I mean, we advise, we train, we teach, we provide any support that a person who has a vision, we give them whatever support they need.
And man, I'm gonna tell you something. Out of all the emails I received, like I said, I had no idea that I was gonna get the overwhelming support that I received from this podcast. But out of all the emails I read, when I got to yours, it was the most intriguing because it went straight to, hey man, let me help your vision. What can my company do to help your vision? And I remember, man, you touched on equipment.
Right.
And I was like, well, I just do that out there. Like, hey man, equipment would be a plus right now. I look up. If y'all see the equipment that this guy have brought, I'm gonna let him explain the equipment because I thought we were about to shoot a Hollywood. Hold on, y'all. Hold on for a second. Where is it?
What are you looking for? The clapper?
The clapper.
There you go.
He even brought me a clapper. He got down to the T and brought me a clapper.
Well, we use that because we're actually shooting a multi-camera setup. Mm-hmm. All right, so in the editing process, we aren't really using a switcher right now because it's just you and me. Mm-hmm. And you don't have a director, technical director, and all that. So what that does is it syncs. I'm able to sync the video from both cameras. So
I'm looking at all these cameras hooked up. You really could shoot a movie if you wanted to, a documentary with this equipment.
Yeah. And to be honest, Carlos, this is just some of the equipment. Not bragging or anything, but I started back in the early '90s getting into video. I was actually in charge of the video ministry at a local church in Newport News. And I would burn the midnight oil there, understanding how to shoot. We were using Betacam SP, and I know you may or may not be familiar with that.
I was a very young
Yeah,
man.
well,
Betamax
yeah.
camera.
Yeah,
I was a young man.
yeah, but that was one of the standard video recording formats for the for those types of cameras. But
Yes, sir.
the editing was what we call linear editing.
Yes, sir.
You had a player, maybe two players, and you had a record deck.
Yes, sir.
And you had this console where you would mark your endpoint on one tape and your output and output on the other tape, press the button, and the machine went through its gyrations,
Yes, sir.
and it put exactly what you told it to, the section that you wanted to record, cut, transition and all that. It recorded that to the actual recorder, again on tape. So nowadays everything is non-linear, meaning computerized.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you have to adapt, and I got one of the first audio capture boards. This was probably in the late '90s. They put out that you could actually put that board. It was like a card that you put into your computer.
And to my like I said, to the people out there that's that I'm trying to pass the word on to by skill. This just a sum of the people that your skill can bring you to meet. And I'm telling you, Mr. Glenn, I was talking to a young guy a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about pretty much what your group do.
Yeah.
And he was asking me, and at that time I didn't really fully understand.
Mm-hmm.
But after like me and you sat down tonight and we talked, like this is a very, very unique group that say, hey, and like I tell people, when you take a leap of faith, it's like putting a blindfold on. That's my theory. I mean, the way I like to use it.
Right.
Somebody put a blindfold on you and say, hey, I'm gonna stand you to this edge.
Mm-hmm.
Jump. The pool might be half full or it might be empty. Some of my partner always taught me.
Yeah.
Your company actually gonna step on the ledge and say, hey, I'm gonna jump with you. Either we gonna hit water or we gonna hit the concrete together.
Right, exactly. I'm all about helping other people. I mean, anything that I do is totally unselfish, and the more I give, and there are things that happen in nature, in the world. You give, and it's given back to you.
Well, let me ask you this: since we two helping people, and like I said, the email you sent me, would you be interested in helping me host this show?
That would be a great honor, and more than likely, if my schedule allows it, I think maybe we can work. If we can work around my schedule.
That means, y'all. We're gonna take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back in about 30 seconds, baby. All right, y'all. Welcome back, man, to the from our break, man. We got a real special guest, Mr. Glenn Branch, man. Worked at Newport News for 30 years, and then he he took a job in Mobile, Alabama. So you worked at Benders and SSR, because I met you in 2010.
Yeah, actually, I went down to work for Atlantic Marine.
That's right.
Alabama ship.
That's right.
And the thing about it, Carlos, is that if you get your trade or your skill and you know it well, and you become one of the best in your skill or your trade, you can go anywhere. My resume basically sold me. They saw what I had done, my past experience, what I had done. All right, and they saw the potential there, and they could use someone that had my skill set and my experience.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I always tell kids, I'm always touch on.
Right.
If you get a skill, it ain't nowhere on planet Earth you can't go.
Right. I think in one of our conversations, you mentioned something about you had gotten some offers to some well-known companies or associations or?
Yes, last year, actually, in the summer of 2019, I was contacted by a contracting agency to be a QA supervisor at Disney World over 3 parks,
Right.
which would have been Animal Kingdom, the main park,
Wild Kingdom.
the main with the castle at Cali. Anyway, that Animal Kingdom, and I had 2 more other parks down there that they were, wanted me to be a QA supervisor over. And here recently, probably about a week ago, I got a job offer from NASA
Okay.
for PT and RT inspector.
Mhm.
Actually, the guy who reached out to me, he was an F-14 pilot in the Navy.
Hey, F-14 pilot.
F-14 pilot.
Maybe we can reach out to this gentleman and maybe have him come and share.
You know, and that's a good idea because, like I say, the more people we put in front, the more the kids. Tina, and me and you, we talked before we went on air, man. We had a real good conversation, and the one thing me and you talked about was everybody ain't gonna go pro in sports. Everybody ain't gonna sell a million tapes. But if you get a skill in the trade, I promise you, you ain't gonna make much money as those guys in your career. But you'll make a very, very lucrative career with a trade and a skill.
Sure. And it's basically the more you put into it, what you put into it, is what you're going to get out of it. And before you say anything, I mean, look where I am. I got into it, and now I'm able to actually help others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Explain that hat, Lady. You rocking that hat?
Well, this is my alma mater, Nipperville Shipbuilding Apprentice School.
Yeah.
Go Builders.
Go Builders.
Go Builders. Yeah.
Oh,
man.
Magic Kingdom. That's what it was.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. It just slipped my mind, but yeah, Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, well, we got so much going on.
Yeah. But you know what, Glenn? I'm gonna tell you something. Like I said, after me and you talked yesterday, man, and we was talking about like Job Corps, these training schools, and basically the Carver Group, Johnson Marine, Newport News, all these, man. And I want to talk about one thing else I mentioned in my show last week.
Okay.
How much bridge work have you seen up in Virginia?
Well, not only Virginia, man, but I traveled the I-95 corridor from Alabama to, well, not Alabama, but South Carolina to Virginia. I traveled the I-85 corridor,
Yes.
the I-20 corridor.
Yes.
But there's a tremendous amount of bridge work, road construction going on. Yeah, sure.
And like I said, we got a guy from AWS that's gonna come, and I think the bridge code is D1.5, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So if you got your CWI and you got your bridge endorsement code, I'm telling y'all, Virginia is the place to be. I mean, like you say, it's all up and down the East Coast, but from what I see at Virginia, every main road, a bridge is getting work there too, and it's been like that for 2 years since I've been here. 2 years.
Yeah, well, not only that, Carla, but they're building new bridges, new crossings over to replace the existing bridges.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, so man, I can't stress enough. Just if I'm big on this, man. Once you get a trade, I try to over the years. I try to treat my trade like a car.
Mm-hmm.
I go get it serviced twice a year. Twice a year, I go get my trade service. Whether it's putting new tires on, putting a new motor in. I always try to go to and I'm gonna tell you, in my hometown, these certs I got, you wouldn't believe this. It was free.
You kidding?
Yes, they have a building down now, AIDT building.
Okay.
And on weekends, back when I was going in like 08 to I think 2012 might have been the last class.
Mm-hmm.
Those classes were free. You had guys like Byron Vines, Jackie Morris would come in on the weekend, and one of these classes, if you look, it got the time periods on like 80-week courses, like a weekend, which you have to go 8 hours a day, and then you test on your last weekend, which was like 3 weekends.
Okay.
But after you graduate, they give you your cert.
Yeah.
And then after you get your cert, you have to get your hours, which is OJT.
Okay.
Once you get that and you go see the level 3 and he tests you, he give you your certificate then that say, hey, this guy is certified.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get your OJT paperwork, and you take it to anywhere, send it in on your resume, they gonna call you because they know this guy got the training, the hours, and the class. Like I said, a lot of these level threes, it's a small world. They all know each other, so they'll put a call out to each other and say, "Hey." So that's why I was touching on last week about it's just so many avenues you can take as far as when you get a skill and trade. Like I say, looking at you who started in 71 and now you retired.
Retired, and now started on a second career. It's interesting and rewarding and challenging.
Mhm.
So it's just you have to, once you retire, you need to keep busy. Have things going on
Right.
to stay young, keep the mind active.
Yes,
Keep certain things from happening to your brain.
Yes, sir.
So I'm all about that. I'm pretty much a health nut. Okay. But you mentioned being certified.
Yes, sir.
What trade were you in originally?
People in my hometown can vouch for me on this.
Okay, come on.
I touched every trade it was to touch, bro. Let me tell you something. Man, when I got to this shipyard in 2000, I think it was in the 04, maybe beginning of 05. When I walked through the doors, I was like, wait a minute. They train you for free. So what I would do, I would go get with a welder.
Yeah.
And for like a whole year, I learned welding. And once I felt like once I passed the B class or the A class test, back then you used to can just walk into HR and say, hey, I want to transfer to another trade.
Oh, okay.
So once I passed my A class test, I go to HR and say, hey, I want to be a ship fitter. And they like, what are you doing? You just passed your A class. So when they moved me to ship fitter and I passed ship fitter, I say, I want to be a pipe welder. So I go to pipe welder school. A guy named Mr. I think his name was Babbitt. But he certified me as a pipe welder. I said, hey, I want to be a pipe fitter.
Yeah.
I went to Kenny Smith. You know Kenny.
Yeah.
Went to Kenny Crew. And you wouldn't believe it. I got all the way up to a hydro supervisor. In 5 years, I was a hydro supervisor walking down pipe. Me and a guy named Aaron Bradley, who was a good buddy of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 23, 24 years old. And I was a hydro supervisor. And I remember this foreman came to me, a guy named Alonzo Weed. He pulled me to the side. He said, Carlos, what are you going to do? He said, you done been in almost every trade I have. Mm-hmm. And this guy named Joe Orrs, who worked for ABS, really good buddy of mine, he had just started for ABS. And he was an inspector, a surveyor. And I had to get the pipe system ready for him to come. So me and the crew would go tighten up all the pipes, make sure it ain't leaking, tighten the flanges up, run the flush. Mm-hmm. So I would be walking pipe down, checking the well, and it was brought to my attention like, hey, they got a QA job open. And I had the advantage because I had been in all these trades. Right. So once I got into NDT, it was no stopping. I did 4 more years. I got all my certs there, and I got offered a job at Sigma Ship Repair, which is where I met you. Right. I started working for Michael Moore, and he was like, hey, I'm going to put you in the paint department. I want you to inspect paint. So I was like, okay. So now I'm inspecting paint when me and your office was right down the hall from each other.
Now that's intriguing to inspect paint.
Yes,
and I know somebody like myself,
yes, sir.
Maybe some of the viewers want to get a clear understanding of what's there to inspect with paint.
Well, you wouldn't believe this, but ships have sunk from faulty paint.
Really?
Yes. I'm not a paint expert, but like when I was I can tell you the basics. When the ship come in, you have guys who, the paint department, whoever gonna paint it, mm-hmm. in a paint rep, which is ABC international. Right. They walk it down and they determine what kind of blast it's gonna get. Okay. All right. Once they blast it, then they determine on what kind of coat's gonna go. And like I say, the relative humidity got to be like 85. It can't be below. The spread can't be under 5. And basically, when they put the first coat on, you go and you take what you call DFT, dry film thickness. and you take so many readings and then you divide them and they give you the average. Okay, then they come and put the second coat on, and then on the underwater hull they put 2 coats of antifouling on, and basically antifouling just keep barnacles from getting on your vessel, and that's pretty much. And like I say, anything above the waterline they put urethane. But I work with some very sharp at Sigma, very sharp guys that took me on to Clyde Johnson. And showed me how to do that paint, man. And that was intriguing. Like, I ain't know you can inspect paint. So that's how I ended up getting in that job. And like I say, once I got certified in that, you know what, the shipbuilding took a hit. And then I got offered a job at this place, a cryogenic plant, which is a very intriguing place. And you know, I ended up getting certified to inspect cryogenic vessels.
Was it high pressure vessels?
Yes, the unfired pressure vessels, ASME, and you talking about some clean work, stainless steel.
Yeah.
Oh man, I actually was on 50,000 gallons, and I got moved to the 3,500 gallons, which is called ice cream tanks. And that was it, man. That was a journey working at that place, because you think you know a lot, but when you get to places and meet guys such as yourself that been doing it for 40 or 50 years, you know, you got to take a step back and say, okay, let me follow this guy and learn everything he knows. And then, you know, so on.
Yeah, and you know what you're leading up to would be mentoring. Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that's one of the other things that the Copper Group does, because there's so many young men out there that really don't have the father figure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There are these young guys that come into the shipyards to work and haven't had the luxury of having a father in their home. So you can see that maybe they are going astray. They aren't showing up for work on a regular basis or whatever. You can take those guys as a mentor aside and try to instill in them the values that are going to stay with them for the rest of their lives and to help them in their careers.
And you speak on that, because when I walked into the shipyard as a 21-year-old man, you like I tell people in construction period, shipyard is the Navy SEALs of the construction world. Because you work as, you can come to work, they can put you on 712s, and I'd be messing with my construction buddies who build bridges, because we be high in the air. So it's just a little tease to them, man. But now, in the shipyard, man, you can be working Friday, planning to get off at 3:30, and your supervisor walk up to you. I don't know about now, but I know when I came in the end, like I say, no disrespect to my elder shipbuilders who've been doing it 30, 40 years, because I'm still a young man.
Right.
But when I came in, your supervisor used to just tap you on your shoulder and say, hey, we on 712s until further notice. And, like I said, coming in as a 19, 20-year-old man, I had to get with mentors and learn their way, like ask questions like, how do you deal with this? Like, I'm never at home. Like, man, 1 week I was pulling on the first LCS we built at this company down there. Me and these guys, Dwayne Murphy, Chris Knight, Aaron Bradley, all those guys, man, we was working like 90 to 100 hours a week. And, it was unique because your supervisor be there with you now. Even the manager was there with us, to get this ship out.
Right.
But I would go to my mentor and just ask, man, dude, like, because the turnover rate would be so high with guys my age.
Yeah.
And so I had to become a man early in this field. By the time I was 25 or 26, I was knocking on the door to go get my CWI, which is like unheard of for guys that had just started not even a decade ago.
Right. So what you're saying, you were all about business.
I was about business.
Yeah.
I was like I say, seeing the guys that, like I say, guys such as yourself and my other elderly shipbuilders who, when they walk through the yard, they knowledge speak for itself. And, so that's the road I try to take. I had to grow up early, and this is why I'm telling kids, like, hey, man, if you don't get that scholarship to these colleges, man, go get you a skid start. The thing I want to do is start getting programs started for the freshmen, like me and you talked about.
Right.
if you know you ain't gonna go to school after college, just gonna start preparing to get you a trade. And when we say trade, Glenn, it's more trades that land to the shipyard,
Oh
right?
yeah, there are electricians and inside machinists, outside machinists, insulators, pipe fitters, welders. I mean, there are quite a few. But
Mhm.
I mean, we're in Hampton Roads, and
Hampton Roads,
there's a
yeah.
heavy concentration of marine entities
Yes, sir.
here.
Yes, sir.
Large, first tier,
Yes, sir.
as well as your second tier,
Yes, sir.
companies
Yes,
as
sir.
well. So for 26 years, I worked at a first tier shipyard.
Yes, sir.
And when I went down to Mobile, Alabama, it was a second tier shipyard.
Mhm.
All right, but the same skills that are required at a first tier shipyard are required at a second tier shipyard. But you may be called on to do more than what you're how can I put it? More than what you've been trained. You may be challenged. You
Yes,
may be
sir.
challenged
Yeah,
to
yeah.
learn other skills.
Yeah,
Just
Yeah.
the same as you voluntarily
Mhm.
sought out those skills.
And when he say, I'm just gonna give people the just how massive it is up here with the trades. Like I say, in my hometown, you got one prime shipyard, and I think two repair yard. I don't know if BAE, the old BAE in Alabama where I was working at when the layoffs came.
Yeah.
I think it's a scrap yard now, and then SSR, which is Mars Marine. I think it's a scrap yard.
Mm-hmm.
Up here, just on the Elizabeth River alone, you got Kilonis, you got General Dynamics, you got BAE, you got Norfolk Naval. And these places I'm talking about, man, the bare minimum was 2,000 employees. We ain't even named Newport News with 30,000.
Right.
Fairlead. Man, I'm telling you, I was talking to my partner the other day in Texas, and I was telling him, like, bro, listen, if I had a skill and my kids was grown and gone, I would pack up and move to Virginia because you are guaranteed. I mean, and they respond so fast. I put it in 2 years ago when I got the submarine job.
Yeah.
We're gonna touch on that. But they call you, do your background check, give you your test, you ready to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that.
That's interesting. Let's see. What I think there was something else I wanted to mention about the carbon group, if I can. Okay.
I'm gonna tell y'all something that I want you to touch on the carb group as much as you want. We got to stand here 2 hours.
Yeah.
I want you to touch on it as much as you can because, like I say, it's such a unique brand. And like I was telling people in my hometown, like if you into anything with a vision that deal with a visual, this company, the Carver Group, will, put it on paper and they're gonna help you get to it. And I just want you to touch on like some of the people or some of the influence you don't have to make you say, I want to help this guy Carlos Johnson, because like I say, when I first say, hey, look, man, this is my idea, you say, hey, look, we're gonna go 50-50. You show me the studio and I'm on board. So I want you to break down that to the listeners that exactly what you looking for and what do the Carver Group gonna do to benefit, if you don't mind, just one more time before we move on.
Sure, but first of all, let me talk a little bit about my logo, and maybe we'll get a chance to show that. But it's a hand reaching down to pull up another hand.
Mm-hmm.
All right, which says that, hey, I'm here for you when you need the help. Okay, I'm here, or we will be here. But it's also what's not shown in the logo. For every one hand, that one hand that's shown being given a lift up, there are countless thousands and thousands of other hands. So I mean, just like you have your vision, or you had your vision, and you mentioned something, I think maybe on the broadcast that was interesting. You went from the gazebo to the shed.
Yes, sir.
All right, and when I see a person who is starting off, I mean, with the bare minimum, and trying to make a goal of it, with that, and reach out, and I think you said you touch base with a few folks, and you were maybe turned down. They couldn't really understand what it is that you were trying to do.
It was so crazy because I was actually reaching out people to trying to get a intro,
Yeah.
I was reaching out to people to like, hey, come on. And now let me just say this. The people that I reached out to come on the show, I totally understand. They was like, look here, man, we got to see the first broadcast first before we just go jumping on your show with our reputation. So that I understood, but I didn't realize what difficult tasks I was up to until people was like, hey, I'm gonna call you right back. Because I was reaching out to people like, hey, look, man, I got this excellent idea. And the only people that, would listen, like I say, my wife, my parents, of course, my God rest my dad, so my sister, my close friend, they, they was like, hey, go for it. So like I say, you can't build a ship by yourself and you can't maintain a ship by yourself. So it got to a point to I had just gave up, like, man, this ain't gonna work. People be like, man, dude, you crazy. You talking about some uploading a broadcast, in these days. I like, dude, I just want to pass the message about skill and trade. That's all. And until, like I say, until now we here and the vision is here.
Yes.
Right.
And again, I mentioned from the gazebo to the shed, and when I first came and we had that initial meeting, obviously, Carlos, we can't shoot in the gazebo.
Yes, sir.
And I said, well, what else can we do? So, you indicated, well, there's a shed back there. I said, well, do what you can to convert it to a studio. Try to, soundproof it, and nice backdrop. And I see, what you've done, and it was enough to get me up here to, continue discussion.
And you know what, man? This shed was full with, seasonal items, bicycles, and I started off. I took 2 mattresses and cut them up, and I still got a picture of the first piece of insulation that I hung up in here. And but look, man, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, man, and we'll be back, man. I'm really enjoying chopping it up with you, again, man. Like this is dope.
Well, so am I.
This is really dope, yo. But we're gonna take a quick break, man, to get ourselves together, man, and we'll be right back. Hey, man, I hope y'all enjoying yourself just as much as I am, man. I'm gonna tell you something, Glenn. Just learning the Virginia culture, man, it has been so fun up here. Like, I can't stress enough of the people, especially like at BAE. When I got here 2 years ago, them guys like Ronnie Spate, man, they took me in, man, and I appreciate them. Them guys took me in, and I don't think a lot of people know, but when I first got here, I was staying in the motel. Yeah, because I had just relocated. I ain't had nothing but one suitcase and work boots. That was all I had. And I knew then, like, hey, man, it's time to go ahead and get it together.
You have to sometimes take that leap of faith.
I took it, yeah.
All right, I left Virginia and went down to Mobile, Alabama. Yes. And I don't regret it. I moved my wife down there, and she had to leave family and friends and all that to go down there, and we didn't know anyone down there. Yeah. So the reason I say that is that you take that leap of faith, and you never know, what's going to come up. Because I basically, by going to Mobile, Alabama, I doubled my salary.
And it's the same thing with, and I try to tell people about that leap of faith. I drove up here in a vehicle with 186,000 miles on it, with like $150 in my pocket 2 years ago. Just got a call from Newport News saying, hey, come take your test. And then, Newport News is notorious. If you don't pass that test, you out of there. And, this was inspecting submarines. So I drove up here on, leap in the prayer, like, okay, if you fail this test, this car ain't going to make it back because it had imploded on Oyster Point. Like 2 weeks after getting it up here. Yeah, it imploded. Like the tires blew in. So I was able to get up here, man, and get myself together. And like I say, I'm just passing the message to, the other people that, like, hey, man, if it's a will, it's a way.
Right. Exactly. And I'd like to transition to some of the things that you mentioned, the last podcast, regarding what is it that your company, Johnson Marine, what is it that you want to do? Why should people continue to come back and watch week after week?
Well, seeing that I really want to start a recruiting podcast, and what that is like we'll have guests on the show that's maybe a HR specialist from one of the yards that say, "Hey, I'm looking for 10 welders." Okay, at Johnson Marine, you send your resumes to us. We got a team of experienced welders that gonna look over the application, call them, ask some key questions, and believe it or not, we're gonna try to be responsible for getting them here to take their test if they from out of town.
Yeah, they're gonna look over the resumes, not the application.
Yeah, they resume. I'm sorry, I'm stuck in the old days. They still do application.
I really don't know. I haven't applied.
I ain't applied me
for a
neither.
job in I don't know how long.
Me neither. So
Okay.
yeah, we're gonna have to look over the resumes and
So that one of the services would be to review resumes.
To
To-
make sure
to
you get
assist.
you get the tailor. We want to be at Johnson Marine. We want to be able to send you tailor fit workers. Like if project managers, we'll get you, whatever your service is in the maritime industry or construction world. We plan on trying to do job placement actually after that, Johnson Marine Academy training has been my biggest passion of passing on what I know so far. And I have been successful in the past with a couple of people that they wanted to come and be an inspector, but the first thing they look at is it's gonna take a long time. And like I mentioned in my last broadcast, no man, Newport News have a
Apprentice
program where you can go in straight out of Burger King, bro. And by the time they done with you over there, I'm telling you, when I first got to Virginia, got to Newport News, I'll never judge a guy by a skillman by his age. If he a foreman at 23, he a foreman at 23. I never judge people like off their age, because I done been 23, and but anyway, man, I was getting there and I was meeting guys, man, like 24 years old, and they got all these certifications. And I was chopping it up with one of the guys there, and I asked him, I said, "Man, explain y'all apprenticeship program. In 4 years, they send you through all the methods. Like man, I'm telling you, if I knew what I knew now when I was 19, soon I got out of Job Corps, I'd have probably drove the plane to Virginia and got into the apprenticeship program in Newport News."
Yeah, and I can really relate to that because, again, back in 1971, I had no idea what I was getting into, but the training, the experience, the people that I met. I mean, I've met some real sharp characters, and they really taught me a lot.
Yeah, and and that's what I was telling young kids about that. I like to use the term jam up, because if you get with some of these skills, we like to teach. I'm gonna tell y'all something about shipyard workers. We got egos, and we all think we the smartest, and we all like to try to prove how smart we are.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get with one of these guys in these yards and you approach him and say, "Hey man, I want to pick that up," he'll teach you. Now you got some of them that's gonna tell you that ain't my job, but on the most part, you have the elderly shipbuilders that will take you under their wing, and they will get you trained, because they're gonna always want to be able to say, "I trained him."
Right.
I trained that guy, and their name is stuck to you. I don't see in most cases where I don't have my mentors standing outside of the classroom door peeking in. "Carlos, you passed that test?" "All right, now I want to know, did you pass that test?" So that's why I was telling people, man, like it's just so many avenues you can take.
Right. So, we talked about the tradespeople. What about the companies that are looking for these tradespeople? What can your company, Johnson Marine, along with the Carbon Group, do to help those larger companies, such as the Newport News Shipbuilding or whoever, get the right employees? And one of the things, and I'll start it off, one of the things that you mentioned is that you have certified welders who have plenty of experience that can review with the resumes, so that we can put, if someone sends a resume and things just don't add up, a welder would know that.
I plan on having 3 packages. The silver package is gonna be we just gonna bring the application to you, I mean the resumes to you. The gold package is we just gonna look at the years of experience. The platinum package is we gonna have experienced guys in the field that you are looking for. If you're looking for NDT, I'm gonna have a team of NDT and former NDT inspectors. If you're looking for pipe fitters, pipe welders, and plus on your end, like I don't know nothing about engineering or law. We have somebody like you on your expertise that'll take care of that side.
Right.
And companies will know sooner or later, hey, if you get an employee from Johnson Marine, we got some. Not saying everybody we gonna send gonna be up to par, but almost guaranteed when you get an employee from us, he gonna be top of the line.
Sure. Yeah, we're gonna do our
We're gonna do our very
very
best to make sure you get
to screen.
Yeah. And you know what, Glenn, before I turn it back over to you, there's some freaking good shipbuilders down south, man. It just the yards are so limited down there. Like, you got your massive yard in Mississippi, you got your big yards in Alabama. But when you start getting up this way, you got the Acres shipbuilding in Philadelphia. Shout out to Acres, man. I got a couple partners up there. Then you come on down, man. You got, like I say, the Hampton Road area. And just not even shipyards, the fab shops up there, man. Oh my, dude. I'm telling you, once we get this job board put up and we start posting just how many jobs is hiring up here, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I think with the team that's being assembled, with the great minds, and the conversation me and you had over lunch,
right?
I think we gonna be on some big here.
Yeah. Well, I can see that. I'm sort of a visionary myself, and when I look at your vision, I saw the potential there, and and that's one of the things that has to pass the Carbon Group litmus test. There has to be the potential there to benefit many folks. So what the avenue that we're going down is going to not only benefit the tradespeople, but actually the companies that we're going to try to recruit for.
Yeah, and I'm gonna touch on that what you just said about the visionary. It's just so unique that that somebody would like take a leap of faith with you. Like, hey man, I'm gonna jump with you. If you hit the bottom of the pool, I'm gonna hit it with you also. So I just want to extend my appreciation for not only just putting your reputation on the line, but if y'all seen this equipment that this guy, explain the commercials, Glenn. Now, I spoke about live commercials in my last broadcast.
Okay.
We're gonna have a Carbon Group commercial. Can we expect to see one?
Yeah. Let's go ahead on and do it because you really want to know a little bit more about the individuals that are coming to you on a weekly basis. So yeah, let's share as we can when we can.
And what's really unique about it is at this company that I'm trying to get off the ground is not only will you get a job, but you're gonna learn by the skill. Man, we got some bright minds coming through here, man. Oh my goodness. I reached out to Jackie Morris last week after the broadcast, and here AWS member, Jack is sharp. Jack is sharp. It's a lot of level 3s out there that I can't wait to bring on the show. Just so, I mean, being an inspector in these days, man, you can make some serious money. I think I showed you the email, like 36 an hour, 120 bucks a day per diem. That's some serious money. And just imagine if you're 23, 24 years old, got a young family, and you get a call saying, hey, we want to pay you 36 bucks an hour. on top of $120 a day per day.
That's substantial. That adds up at the end of the year.
It adds up at the end of the year. And if you look enough, like I can't speak on all yards up here. I only done worked at a few, and all of them have been great experience for me. BAE especially gonna always hold a special place in my heart because that was like the first. That was the first job that I ever had in Virginia. Is BAE.
Okay.
And I went over to Newport News, and I was a inspector on the Virginia class submarine over there. And it's just so many opportunities up here. Like, dude, I had to take my resume off Indeed because
You getting bombarded.
you was getting bombarded.
Yeah.
And let me just say this before I go, Glenn. You never want to chase a dollar.
No.
Because I done been on jobs where guys don't got an offer for $50 an hour and left and the conditions done been horrendous. Until, so you don't want to jump for money. But if the money is there.
Right. Yeah, and let's, not only in the trades, but when I went down to Alabama, I was an engineering supervisor.
Yes, sir.
And I had piping designers, I had structural designers, I had electrical designers. I mean, I had all disciplines. And we used quite a few what we call job shoppers. And some of them would come to us and they'll be making pretty decent money, I thought. And they would be looking elsewhere. Like you mentioned, trying to follow a dollar, trying to get maybe $1 more an hour. And they would leave. And in a lot of cases, they would leave us in a bind because we had them working on a special project. I mean, at the second tier shipyards, man, it's go get them and schedule. And if you don't meet the schedule, there are consequences. It's like the ripple effect. If you're late in engineering, well, they're going to be late in fabrication. They're going to be late in assembly, pre-assembly, construction, and all of that. So, I mean, these engineers or designers, we wanted to understand that. But to get back to my point, is that they would leave, for maybe 50 cents or $1 more an hour, and then go to another shipyard and be crappy. And then the next thing you know, they're wanting to come back.
Yeah. I didn't realize how important scheduling was until I got in repair. And speaking of guys that's quitting, we know ship repair, commercial world, not military.
Right.
The turnover rate is so high because I'm telling you, man, the job I worked at in my hometown, it was a strictly commercial repair yard. And when you start getting ships in from like Texaco, Chevron, when they go on dock, if they tell you they got to be off in 3 weeks, they got to be off in 3 weeks. So it's $90,000 a day.
What we call liquidated damages.
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you, man. I don't work many holidays. I remember one time it was so, and it don't really get freezing in Mobile like it Alabama like it does up here. Right. But here now and then you'll get a cold snap through there. And man, they had got down to like 8 degrees one day, and we had to go to work. My freaking toes was froze to my steel. And I remember now that I'm up north and it get cold up here, I'm kind of getting used to it. But back then, man, it was so cold, and we had a superintendent that he was on there with you, but hey, we got to get this boat off, man, because we got another ship coming on. So, that's why, that, and you know what, leaving that, I'll go back and do it all over again because it was so fun and intense, man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I really don't want to wear out my welcome. I want to save some of it for future episodes.
I gotta tell you, Glenn, man. It was a pleasure and an honor having you as my first guest. I appreciate everything that the Carver Group, have done. And like I said, man, it's so unique because we know in these days and time, a lot of people is out for sale. And just, after, checking and calling a few people. And like I said, we worked together for a few years. You were just so quiet. We spoke, I sat in your office, we talked. You played a role in mentoring me too, but not one time did you never mention, like, hey, this is what I do. People would always come back and tell me, and to get your support in this, and like I say, man, to take this leap of faith with me, it's appreciated, man. I look forward to me and you sitting down talking after this show. Probably go out and have some breakfast or something, sit down, uh, and just go from there, man.
Okay, sounds good, Carlos. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah. But look, before we go, we gave y'all an hour, man. Glenn, any jobs that might be looking around the area? I seen a place the other day, and I'm gonna get the job. If you're a welder, a fitter, a pipe fitter, you got a trade period. Start looking in Virginia. It's just like you can be in the service station, and it's a pickup truck that'll pull up and say, "Hey, looking for welders." It's fab shops popping up all around here, man. Matter of fact, they moving from it's a shop don't move from California, from San Diego, man, out here because it's so much work out here, man. I think they said 2032 is the next. Uh, it's like that's how much work they got until like 2032.
2032. Okay. All right, man.
So, hey, man, I hope y'all enjoyed this broadcast, man. It's the second one, and next Friday, I don't know who we gonna have on. I think we need to go ahead, and I think I'm gonna try to have a special guest on for y'all next week. But like I say, the message ain't gonna change. If you're a teenager in high school, but not just a teenager, anybody. Because I'm gonna tell you something else, Glenn.
Yeah.
I done met a 50-year-old guy who went to these skills, a trade school, and graduated with their trade. And by the time they 55, dude, they was making $100K a year. So that's what this, like I say, not just gonna be a job placement, it's gonna be an informational place too. And like I say, my goal is I want a parent every Friday night when this show go off to go wake their kid up and say, "Hey, watch this. Watch this show. Just because you ain't get that offer you wanted, why don't you go try your nearest Job Corps?" And I went to Job Corps, and I'm gonna tell y'all, it's the next thing to college. You end up with a bunch of people you don't know from different states.
Mm-hmm.
You go into class, they teach you. And like I say, I went down there and learned welding in Mississippi. And that was 20 years ago. My pop took me, like I said, he took me to the Greyhound station. And 20 years later, here I am sitting up here, man. And I done met some very, very good guys over my career, man. But that's where I'm at, and like I say, I appreciate everybody, man, for tuning in to the show. We expect your feedback. But Glenn, I can't let you go without asking, man, what year you say you started?
1971.
1971.
Yeah.
So
you guys can do the math.
It'd be a red around joke with Glenn for almost a decade. Glenn on age. He on age. But look, man, I appreciate you stopping by, Glenn. Like I said tonight, man, we're gonna go probably Waffle House, IHOP, and let's sit down and talk, man. We plan on doing big things with this right here, man. It's the first ever job recruiting podcast, and I think with the Carver Group and Johnson Marine, we bring our minds together. We can really do what my vision really was, and that was to help people. Like teenagers in high school, I want to get to a point to where we maybe can go different places and talk to them, tell them the importance of, get a trade.
Yeah, and before we go, Carlos, why don't you mention, where they can be able to find the broadcast or to like, subscribe, and share and all that.
Well, right now I got a YouTube channel. It's called Johnson Marine, and I'm gonna share it to all platforms. I can't share it to Instagram, obviously, but my Facebook page, Carlos Johnson, and I also have another page called Football to Shipyards. That's a key page because that got a lot of high school kids from around the country that follow that page. And I go back into some of their profiles now, and I look 4 years ago when I first created that page, that I was a volunteer football coach. That a lot of them were saying that they was going to these big universities. To now, I go to their page, and a lot of them they working. They are working, but I want them to understand, like, bro, you don't have to wait till you're 30. If you get a trade and you hit it hard at 18, give it everything you got for what you say 5 years, man, you can really make some serious money. You can really go see the world.
Well, not only make some serious money, but you can also be a benefit, to the company that you're working for, helping them to achieve their short-term and long-term goals. Because in a lot of cases, it's not all about you, but it's a partnership between you and the company. That's just my 2 cents how I look at it.
Hey, I got a new segment I want to do for guests, and it's called we talked about it, the traders. Let's trade before you leave. We're gonna trade some information. What you got for me? I'm gonna write it down, and then I'm gonna give you and the listeners. I'm gonna give y'all something out the treasure box to take. And normally when we do this, it's gonna be strictly knowledge. So what you got for me, Glenn?
Okay, I guess my nuggets would be more of a philosophical
Okay,
nature.
okay.
All right, and the first one would be YDKW.
Okay.
All right, and what that stands for is you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
All right, so you always be open
Uh-huh.
and knowledgeable, and
Yes, sir.
Be open to other and new information.
New information. And,
information.
I'm gonna pass on this. I know y'all been seeing this board. All right, right here is your mill standard code. I mean your mill standard. You got 22D, which is for fit up. You got 278. That's for your pipe and turbines. 1689. That's gonna be your steel. 248 is gonna be qualifying. Then we're gonna go down to AWS. That's D1.1. That's your steel code. Then you got ASME, ASNT. I don't really know D1.17, and I ain't finna say it, but I don't want to be wrong.
Okay.
Then you got your welding symbol, man. And then in pipe, you got P1, P2, and P3. And we'll get into all that, man. And like I say, that's just something that I want to trade to you and the viewers. Every episode, we'll trade with different people on what we got. But Glenn, man, just chopping it up with you, man, and getting this game from you, man, I appreciate it. Anytime I get with my elders, man, I try to get life and the game from y'all. Like, y'all guys had to maneuver through the shipyard in the 70s and 80s and 90s, where safety wasn't where it is today. So I always like to sit down with my old school, man, and pick y'all brains. And like I say, me being a young man, I really deeply appreciate, y'all guys doing it, because my pops, man, I used to go to my pop, pick up the phone and call him for anything. And now I can't do that.
Right.
So just being able to go to you guys that, shipbuilding and can pass the game on to me, I think we finna make this thing work. So, man, look here, man, we gave y'all an hour broadcast, and I'm looking forward to seeing y'all next week. Johnson Marine out.